I'm Melissa and I'm here with Julian Brazier, our local MP for Canterbury and Whitstable. So, you channelled Margaret Thatcher, but she arguably reinforced the political north and south divide. This is not entirely the Conservatives' doing, but do you think that anything can be done to solve it?
Well, to get the economy in the north of England moving, we have to get the economy in the country as a whole moving. And I'm afraid that means some things being done nationally, particularly getting the deficit under control, but also a lot of things being done locally. For example, we've got the largest apprenticeship programme for 50 years. That's giving opportunities for people in the north of England, in the more depressed areas, as well as people in the south of England to get opportunities to skill themselves up. We're by setting up a number of these economic development zones. We've got one in Thanet, which is as poor as many of parts of the north of England, but most of those special zones with the tax privileges and the rest to drive regeneration, those are all in poorer areas, and the majority of them are in the north of England.
Oh, thank you. Measures have been taken to encourage banks to lend, but banks are not doing this. Do you think there is a way to push this agenda more forcefully?
Well, we can't actually direct them to lend to individual people, but we've introduced a whole string of schemes basically around the government providing guarantees if the bank decides to lend money to a particular small business or to people trying to borrow money to buy houses. Because if we could encourage more house building, not only would that be really good, because there are lots of people who can't afford to buy houses or to rent them at the moment, so we need more houses, but it also gets people back into work and skilled work at that in the economy.
Definitely. You criticised Germany's enforcement of austerity in southern Europe, but that is George Osborne's policy. You also mentioned currency devaluation as a panacea, but this is hardly helping us. What is your response?
Right, well done. I think there has to be austerity to the extent of getting runaway borrowing under control. Now in Britain we've done austerity, we have our own currency so that we can balance the fiscal austerity, that's getting the borrowing down, by printing more money, quantitative easing as it's called by the Bank of England. And the result is an overall balanced package which is coming right, and the markets believe it's coming right because the bond market's very, very strong, and an interest rate, the government can borrow at very low interest rates, so the markets are confident in that. What is happening in southern Europe is quite different. What is happening in southern Europe is they're trying to do the kind of austerity that we're trying to do, but without their own currency. So they can't have quantitative easing because they're all part of the central structure, and Angela Merkel won't allow quantitative easing, and so they've got fiscal tightening and monetary tightening happening at the same time, and the result is they're locked into the kind of vicious cycle that Britain got locked into when we stayed on the gold standard for a year or two in the 1920s, and as long as they stay in the single currency, things will go on getting worse in my view in southern Europe.
You freely quote the economists encouraging Angela Merkel to leave the euro, but most of George Osborne's economic academics have deserted him. Do you think that he should reflect on this? Well,
I don't know who you are thinking of in terms of economists. When Margaret Thatcher put the economy right in the 1980s, the bulk of 364 of them signed a letter saying to the Times saying she got it all wrong. But the economists that I respect, the monetarist economists like Tim Congdon and those sort of people, are basically saying that we're right to keep it under control, and the real evidence is that the markets believe it's right, which is why our interest rates remain so low. I mean, they do. You know, the fact that the government can borrow at very, very low interest rates show that people all over the world think the money is safe in Britain.
You have spent time on the back and the front benches. Do you hope for a return to the front bench?
No, I don't think I'm going to have another opportunity. I enjoyed doing that commission the Prime Minister put me on reserve forces, but I enjoyed my 9 years on the front bench. But there's lots of bright people coming up through the system. I don't think it's likely I'll go back to the front bench again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Not at all. Thank you.
Social Secretary from the Kent Conservative Society. So, Philip, how would you rate the success of tonight?
I think it's been a really good event, Melissa. We've had around 70 people turn up. Not only this, but because we've had so many people turn up, I can certainly claim to the view that we are the most popular political society at Kent, far more than our counterparts, Labour Society. And not only that, but we've had a huge surge in our membership. From 4 last year to nearly 40 this year. So it's been a really good event, and it's fantastic to see so many people come and talk to Julian Brazier, our local MP.
Definitely. Why do you think it is so important for students to join KUCA?
I think it's really important for students to join KUCA and political societies in general. I think if people join political societies before a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have had this student fees fiasco. Governments of all political persuasions would be taking far more interest in students. In terms of KUCA, we are a society that's broad and generous. We have people from all backgrounds, all ethnicities, so on and so forth. I'm gay, so I secure one sort of minority there. Not only this, we have great fun in all our socials, and with fantastic events like the one we just went at.
Laura Jane Walker, the Vice Chair of the Labour Society, how do you defend the scathing attacks that were made this evening regarding Labour's track record, which Brazier claims to destroy the economy every time they are in power?
Well, quite honestly, as a Conservative MP, he's going to say that. But when you look at the facts, when we were in under Blair, we had 40 consecutive quarters of growth. And when we had the crash in 2008, that was a worldwide crash. But by the time that we left government, we were beginning to come out of that. But now, obviously, we are back in that, and yet quite a lot of the world isn't. And that's clearly a Conservative made recession, so really they're trying to defend themselves when quite frankly it's indefensible, and we have a much better economic record than they claim that we have.
Due to Brazier's appearance tonight, will Labour be hosting any special guests soon?
Yes, actually next Thursday we are hosting the former Home Secretary, and she's a great speaker. She's Jackie Smith, by the way, and she'll be able to give the audience a real insight into how government works. And
fantastic.
it'll be brilliant if people came along just to hear what she's got to say. Great event.
Why do you think it is important for the University of Kent students to join the Labour Society?
Well, for a start, I don't think you have to overtly identify as being part of the Labour Party. It's for anyone who holds, left of centre, normal progressive views. If you believe in things like equality and fairness, and if you believe that we can offer a real alternative to the current coalition, then this is the place for you. We are a very broad church. We don't force people to sign up for anything. If we do have a lot of people who just come along to certain things that they're interested in, say like debate nights or socials, we're absolutely open to anyone. So that's why you should just come along, see what we're like.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura.
It's been great speaking to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
One last question. All of Parliament is dominated by Oxbridge and public school students. Is there hope for those of us who do not have that background?
Well, I wouldn't say all of Parliament was dominated by public school and Oxbridge. The fact is, Margaret Thatcher didn't go to a public school. She did go to Oxford. If you look at the huge range of talents, I see that Mike Penning, for example, is just one of my closest friends, has just been promoted from being a parliamentary under-secretary to a Minister of State. He was a private in the army, private soldier in the army, and a fireman before he came into politics.
I think absolutely. In the Labour Party, although a lot of our cabinet and our front bench were Yeah, but they did go to Oxbridge. They originally went to comprehensives. You know, they went to normal state schools, and by going to Oxbridge, they've shown that with the right comprehensive education, they are able to get there. Whereas again, the Conservatives, they believe that, you know, that you have to go to a good public school, so it's the only good school. But we believe that if you get education right from day one, then we're trying to sort out the problem. Basically, we are really trying to tackle this issue.
Well, you and I are both at Kent, as is a lot of people, and obviously we've just seen. I think there is a problem, certainly. I think it's around 30% of all RMPs come from Oxbridge, or Oxford and Cambridge. However, there are so many examples, particularly in the Conservative Party, of people like John Major, and, for example, Margaret Thatcher, who a true working class hero who rose to the ranks. Whereas if you look at the Labour Party, they've had a consistent history of elitist Oxbridge and certainly upper class intellectuals who have run all their leaderships. When you compare it to us, actually we are really the party of everyone, rather than the Labour Party, who just claims to be the party of the working classes.
Very good point.
America, which is a country with great social mobility, they have a wonderful phrase which I'd love to hear Ian Duncan Smith use, because I think he's very good, which is the ABC principle. You go out and get any job, whether it's stacking shelves, filling burgers, or whatever it happens to be, and within a short time it leads to B, which is a better job, and that in turn will lead to C, which is a career. And it's absolutely true. And that's the sort of principle thinking we've got to get going.